Hey everyone, Chris here and welcome to my channel. In today's 5 on Friday, I'm here to share with you 5 books that are coming out in June that I'm eagerly anticipating that have LGBTQIA plus rep. So if you watched last week's 5 on Friday, which was also an anticipated releases for June video, you may have noticed there was no LGBTQIA plus rep mentioned in any of the descriptions of those books, and that was intentional. There were so many good books and interesting books coming out in June that I was struggling to choose, and then I realized that my top choices could easily be split up between books with LGBTQIA plus rep and books without LGBTQIA plus rep, and I thought that would be interesting to do an entire video just dedicated to books coming out in June, which is Pride Month, that have LGBTQIA plus rep in them somewhere. So here are the 5 books I have decided to highlight that are coming out in June that in some way, shape, or form feature LGBTQIA plus rep. First up, I have Dan in Green Gables, a graphic novel, a modern reimagining of Anne in Green Gables by Ray Tercerio with Claudia Aguiar, and this comes out on June 3rd. In this modern reimagining of Anne of Green Gables, effervescent extrovert Dan Stewart Alvarez is surprised to find home and community in rural Tennessee. Despite a life on the road with his free-spirited mother, 15-year-old Dan Stewart Alvarez has always wanted to settle down. He just didn't think it'd be like this, with his mother abandoning him in rural Tennessee with 2 strangers, his gentle grandmother and conservative, rough-around-the-edges grandfather. Here, he is forced to adjust to working the farm, entering high school, and hardest yet, reckoning with his queerness in a severe Southern Baptist community. But even as Dan grows closer to his mama, befriends fellow outsiders at school, and tries to make a new life for himself in Green Gables, he has to discover whether he can contend with intolerance and adapt to change without losing himself in the process. From award-winning author Ray Tercerio and Eisner Award nominee and illustrator Claudia Aguiar comes a new retelling of Anne of Green Gables about unconventional families, queer identity, and finding the meaning of home in the most unlikely of places. I thought this sounded like an amazing retelling of Anne of Green Gables. I adore Anne of Green Gables. I think it's such an amazing classic book. Anne is so easy to fall in love with, so I'm hoping that this book manages to capture that same charm with Dan while tackling something that is a little bit more modern, i.e. his queerness and how he's going to adapt to the community he's found himself in, how his grandparents are going to handle that given the community they grew up in the generation they come from. So I'm very, very curious about this one and really, really want to check it out. Then coming out on June 12th, This Princess Kills Monsters by Rye Herman. A princess with a mostly useless magical talent takes on horrible monsters, a dozen identical masked heroes, and a talking lion in a quest to save a kingdom and herself in this affectionate satire of the Grimm brothers' fairy tale, The 12 Huntsmen. Someone wants to murder Princess Meliat. This is sadly normal. Meliat is sick of being ordered to go on dangerous quests by her domineering stepmother, especially since she always winds up needing to be rescued by her more magically talented stepsisters. And now she's been commanded to marry a king she's never met. When hideous spider wolves attack her on the journey to meet her husband-to-be, she is once again rescued, but this time by 12 eerily similar-looking masked huntsmen. Soon, she has to contend with near-constant attempts on her life, a talking lion that says bewildering gender tests, and a king who can't recognize his true love when she puts on a pair of trousers. And all the while, she has to fight her growing attraction to not only one of the huntsmen, but also her fiancé's extremely attractive sister. If Meliat can't unravel the mysteries and rescue herself from peril, kingdoms will fall. Worse, she could end up married to someone she doesn't love. I love when books have, like, the princess saves herself and does not necessarily need to be rescued by a man trope, and it certainly seems like Meliat is going to be a character who definitely knows how to take care of herself and grows to do so more throughout the book, at least from this description. I also like the fact that she's crushing on 2 different people of 2 different genders, and I'm very curious to see how that plays out. It feels like it's also going to have some humor in it, so I thought it would be fun. While I haven't read The 12 Huntsmen by the Grimm brothers, I still want to check this out and see how this story unfolds, because I feel like it's just going to be a fun read, and we're going to get to see Meliat grow into this badass, and it makes me very interested in this particular book. Then, coming out June 19th is Kickflip Volume 1, a heartfelt graphic novel about LGBTQ plus identity, acceptance, and friendship by L.D. Lipinski with Logan Hanning. And I do want to mention, I believe that release date is only for the UK. I do not believe that is coming out in the US yet, but it is coming out in the UK. L.D. Lipinski is an author I've read from before, and I really, really like their work, so I'm very curious about this one. A poignant LGBTQ plus graphic novel about self-discovery, skateboarding, and finding your true community of friends, perfect for fans of Heartstopper. What happens when your two worlds collide? At school, Elliot gets bullied for being different to other girls, whereas at the skate park, everyone welcomes Elliot, presuming they're male, but neither label feels right. As Elliot's love of skateboarding and friendships grow, their worlds collide at a sports expo where the school netball team and skate crew are competing. Can Elliot find the courage to share what they've learned about non-binary identity? Will best friend Josh or the skateboarding crew accept Elliot for who they are? And what about Ryan, the skater who Elliot has been feeling increasingly close to? The first volume of a new graphic novel series that will steal your heart. Like I said, I've read stuff from L.D. Lipinski before and really enjoyed it. I love the way they tackle having queer characters in their books. Fun fact, when I was younger, my nephew used to spend a lot of time at our house, and he would sleep over a lot, and he was into skateboarding. And so were some of the other boys that lived near me, and he used to hang out with them, and they'd skate like in our driveway or in the road I lived on. So I, as a teenager, knew a lot about skateboarding. I would watch skateboard competitions. I knew who the like big skaters back then were. I've played a bunch of Tony Hawk games back in the day. So I was well aware of this, and I've always found skateboarding fascinating. Like, I'm not going to say I was like super interested watching my nephew and our friends try to do the same basic tricks over and over and over and over again. But watching these skaters who are at the top of their game, whether they were doing the half pipe or whether they were doing like a street routine, was always super intriguing to me. And I was always blown away by how talented these people were and what they were able to do on a skateboard. Because let me tell you, I struggled to stand on the thing when it was in the grass. There was no way I was riding one. So I always appreciated the talent it took for people to not only get to the point where they could skate on a skateboard, but actually compete at that high level. So I'm very aware of the skate community and how that can bring people together, because it certainly did where I was. And so I'm very curious about how that plays out in this graphic novel and how it kind of ties into things. I'm very curious about Elliot's journey and what happens when their worlds collide and how they handle that. And I'm very excited about the idea that this is the first book in a graphic novel series, because like I said, I've loved L.D. Lipinski's other works. So I 100% want to get my hands on this, and I'm probably going to order it from like Blackwell's so that I don't have to wait for it to come out in the United States, because based on their previous works, I see no reason I wouldn't love this too. So very excited for this one. Then coming out on June 24th, we have Bed and Breakup by Susie Dumond. This is a contemporary romance. Two exes reunite to fix up and sell the vacant bed and breakfast that destroyed their marriage. Can they find a way to give the antique inn and themselves a better future? As newlyweds, Molly and Robin made the Hummingbird Inn into a trendy destination for queer travelers in the quirky mountain town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. But when their career ambitions drove them apart, the young couple separated, handed over the property's upkeep to a management firm, and never looked back. 7 years later, Molly and Robin returned to the Hummingbird Inn for very different reasons. Molly is an artist on the rise who's been commissioned to create pieces in Eureka Springs. Robin is a celebrity chef whose restaurants have gone belly up. Both feel entitled to their shared property, furious that the other refuses to leave, and resort to a series of escalating pranks in the hopes of scaring the other off. When neither woman budges, they resolve to renovate the bed and breakfast, sell it, and at last go their separate ways. But their work to restore the inn's vintage charm reignites memories and chemistry that make it hard to say goodbye. Tender, charming, and heartwarming, Bed and Breakup is a small-town lovers to enemies to lovers romance that explores how some dreams, no matter how dusty or broken, deserves a second chance. I really liked the premise of this. I have been known to watch HGTV. My mom watches those renovation shows a lot, so sometimes I just end up getting sucked into them because I happen to be in the room and we're getting ready to do like the reveal or something, and I'll watch the end of them. I really do like two of them though. I like watching Main Cabin Masters and Bargain Block. So I thought the renovation aspect was interesting. It appealed to something that I do enjoy from time to time. I like the idea of this couple breaking up and then having to be back together to work on a common goal so that they can go their separate ways and then maybe realizing they don't want to. I want to see how that plays out, how working on this renovation brings them back together, especially considering based on what I have seen on these shows, renovations never go smoothly. So I'm interested to see what things crop up that they weren't expecting and how they manage to handle them given their not so great relationship. So I thought this was an intriguing concept, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Molly and Robin repair their relationship. And then lastly, also coming out on June 24th is Queer Lens by Paul Martineau and Ryan Linkoff. This is a nonfiction art history book. Copiously illustrated, Queer Lens explores the transformative role of photography in LGBTQ+ communities from the 19th century to the present day. Photography's power to capture a subject, representing reality or a close approximation, has inherently been linked with the construction and practice of identity. Since the camera's invention in 1839, and despite periods of severe homophobia, the photographic art form has been used by and for individuals belonging to the dynamic LGBTQ+ communities, helping shape and affirm queer culture and identity across its many intersections. Queer Lens explores this transformative force of photography, which has played a pivotal role in increasing queer visibility. Lively essays by scholars and artists explore myriad manifestations of queer culture, both celebrating complex interpretations of people and relationships and resisting rigid definitions, featuring a rich selection of images, including portraits of queer individuals, visual records of queer kinship, and documentary photographs of early queer groups and protests. This volume investigates the medium's profound role in illuminating the vibrant tapestry of LGBTQ+ communities. This volume is published to accompany an exhibition on view at the J. Paul Getty Museum at the Getty Center from June 17th to September 28th, 2025. I thought this sounded absolutely fascinating. I love the idea of being able to explore queer history through photographs. I'm curious to see which photographs are picked, how they decide to tell this story. And I'm always looking forward to finding more queer books that investigate our history, because we have always been here. And given everything going on in the world in 2025, especially right here in the United States, knowing more about where we came from, how we came to be, who came before us is more important to me than ever. So I am so eagerly anticipating this book and cannot wait to get my hands on it, because I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. So there you have it. Those are 5 books coming out in June that I'm excited about that have LGBTQ+ rep in them. I feel like I've got a pretty eclectic mix here, so I would love to know which one of these books interests you the most. Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me camera emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!